Panda is coming to you today with an incredible video. If you have read a single headline about artificial intelligence in the last 2 years, you are already familiar with which jobs are supposedly under threat. Programmers are being laid off, junior developers cannot find jobs, and tech companies are freezing hiring because now an AI tool can do the work that used to be done by dozens of entry-level engineers. Music. This narrative is loud, anxious, and honestly, some of it is justified. But according to a new study from MIT, this discussion is largely focused on the wrong thing. Most people and most news reports treat AI as something that replaces jobs. But that is not what is actually happening. AI usually does not replace jobs. It replaces tasks inside jobs. A lawyer does not disappear overnight, but the hours spent reviewing routine contracts can quietly shrink. A journalist continues writing, but the time spent on research, background gathering, and fact-checking gets compressed. And although this may sound like a softer version of the same story, it is not. Because our entire economic system, how we measure work, track productivity, and plan the future is built around jobs, not tasks. GDP, unemployment rates, and wage data were designed to count jobs and people. And they do that reasonably well, but they were never designed to look inside a job and ask which parts AI can already perform. That is why the change is not visible where we are looking. By the time we see disruption in official data, it has already been happening for a while. And all the plans governments make are aimed in the wrong direction. It is like trying to navigate a new city with a 30-year-old map. The streets look familiar, but nothing is exactly where you expect it to be. This is exactly why an MIT team built something new. Not another prediction model of which jobs will disappear, but a map showing where AI capabilities and human skills overlap. They called it the Iceberg Index, and the name is very fitting. When we measure what AI can do in the tech sector, it accounts for about 2.2% of total US labor market wage value, around $211 billion. This is the visible tip of the iceberg. But when the same method is applied to the entire economy, the number rises to 11.7%, about $1.2 trillion, 5 times larger. That is the part under the water. And that hidden part includes highly educated, well-paid professionals in sectors that have not generated a single anxious headline about AI. So important questions arise. What exactly is the Iceberg Index? And why does measuring skills instead of jobs change everything? What does it reveal beneath the surface? And how much of the story are we missing? And what will happen to the jobs and workers that AI cannot touch? Why is that answer stranger and more expensive than most people expect? Running a small business means wearing every hat at the same time. Sales, purchasing, taxes, customer communication, and everything in between. This often means constantly switching between multiple tools and platforms. That is where today's sponsor, Odoo, comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management system that brings all business operations into a single platform: CRM, invoicing, payroll, taxes, and more. The biggest advantage of Odoo is that it eliminates lost time. Switching between tools, searching for information in different places, and repeatedly entering data disappears completely. And it is not just about saving time. With everything in one system, smarter decisions can be made, like when to restock inventory, and most importantly, it helps businesses grow. There is even a free single app, and plans start under $25 per month. A 4-day free trial is also available. Throughout history, every major economic transformation has forced economists to develop new measurement tools. In the industrial era, output per hour had to be invented because there was no way to measure physical productivity at scale. In the internet era, GDP faced a strange problem. It could measure the value of encyclopedias sold in stores, but not the value of Wikipedia, which replaced them. Eventually, the US Bureau of Economic Analysis created separate systems like the Digital Economy Satellite Accounts. According to MIT, the AI era requires a similar shift because intelligence has now become a shared input between humans and machines. The Iceberg Index tries to measure exactly that. How does it work? First, they build a digital model of 151 million US workers across 923 occupations and 3,000 counties. Then, they use the otimes.net database from the US Department of Labor, which breaks jobs into hundreds of skills, such as analysis, critical thinking, computer use, and programming. Each skill is assigned importance and difficulty scores. So instead of saying there are 4 million accountants, they say, this job requires 37 skills, each with different importance and difficulty levels. Next, the same process is applied to AI. More than 13,000 real AI tools are analyzed. Coding assistants, document processing systems, financial analysis tools, and automation platforms like Zapier. All of them are mapped into the same skill framework. This allows human jobs and AI capabilities to be compared on the same scale. As a result, each occupation gets a number, what percentage of its wage value AI can technically perform. And the key concept here is wage value. It is not about how many people lose their jobs, but how much of the economic value of a job AI can already perform. For example, an accountant may spend 60% of their time on data entry and document processing, and 40% on decision-making and client relationships. Automating 60% of their time does not mean losing 60% of their value. The Iceberg Index intentionally does not include physical robotics, predictions of timing, outcome forecasting. Think of it not as a weather forecast, but as an earthquake risk map. So what does it show? In 2025, more than 100,000 job losses were linked to AI restructuring. In the tech sector, AI affects about 2.2% of wage value, $211 billion. But the real story does not end there. The same capabilities exist far beyond tech. Financial analysts, HR professionals, insurance processors, legal assistants, all use similar skills. That is why the total rises to 11.7%, $1.2 trillion. So most of the anxiety about AI has focused only on the visible tip of the iceberg. The remaining 80% has stayed invisible. And interestingly, those most affected are often highly educated and high-income workers. The most AI-exposed jobs involve reading information, writing, analysis, summarization. But there is a large gap between theoretical capability and real-world use. For example, in computer and math jobs, AI can theoretically perform 94% of tasks, but in practice, only about 33% is actually automated. This gap exists due to regulation, integration issues, and the need for human oversight. But these barriers may decrease over time, and we are already seeing early effects. IBM replaced some HR roles with AI. Salesforce stopped some hiring. Entry-level job postings in AI-exposed fields dropped by 35%. Geographically, the most exposed regions are surprising. It is not California. States like South Dakota, North Carolina, and Utah are more exposed due to their reliance on finance and office work. But the key question is, what about jobs that AI cannot replace? About 30% of the workforce has almost no exposure to AI. Chefs, nurses, plumbers, waiters, childcare workers, but another economic force comes into play: Baumol's cost disease. As some sectors become more productive and cheaper, others that cannot improve productivity, like healthcare and education, become relatively more expensive. So AI may make protected jobs more expensive over time. And many of these jobs are publicly funded healthcare, education, and care services. This may put pressure on government budgets. In conclusion, AI does not replace entire jobs. It reshapes tasks. Most of the change is not visible in economic data. The biggest impact is in unexpected professions. Even AI-safe jobs face economic pressure. The MIT Iceberg Index does not predict the future. It suggests that we may be looking in the wrong place. And if this map is not used, the result could be a two-speed economy, one highly productive side, and one increasingly expensive and unsustainable side. No one knows exactly how this will unfold, but the decisions made today will shape that future. If you liked the video, supporting us by following would make us very happy. Panda loves you.